14th episode of the Lucid Truth. Today, I am speaking with Richard Lange. Richard is the author of several books on spirituality, such as Seeing Who You Really Are, and actively teaches the Headless Way, online and at workshops around the world. Thank you for being here with us today, Richard.
You're welcome.
So, Richard, can you tell us about how the Headless Way was discovered?
Yes, of course. The man who discovered it, if we can put it like that, was called Douglas Harding. He's dead now. He was born at the beginning of the last century, and he grew up in a rather strict Christian sect in the east of England. He was born in 1909, and when he was 21, he left this sect. It was too strict for him. In fact, he read a paper he wrote, and he read it to they were called the Plymouth Brethren, and he read it to them. And his main reason for leaving was that he couldn't accept that they had the only path to truth just because they said they did. And they didn't like that. And so his father cut off from him at that point. You know, it was a big deal to leave. And Douglas then, he was training to be an architect in London, and he was a curious person, and he just had this curiosity about life and about himself. And he really began forming the question, what am I? Who am I? And he didn't want to just take on board another philosophy from someone who said it was right just because they said it was right, you know. Mm-hmm. And he pursued this question, who am I, through science and philosophy. And he recognized that what he was depended on the range of the observer. So if you looked at me at 10 feet, you'd see Richard. But if you came up to me with instruments, you'd find I was cells. And then you'd even closer find I was molecules and atoms and particles. And if you went away from me, you'd then see London and England and the planet, the star, the galaxy. So this is true of us all. Everyone is like an onion in the sense that they've got layers. And so he was working this out. And he then went to India with his wife. He got a job there as an architect. And then the Second World War broke out, and he went into the army. But around this time, his inquiry into who he was intensified. It wasn't just a kind of hobby. He was just intensely interested in what he was. He felt that he'd happened. You know, he thought about the fact that he'd happened, and he thought, well, I'm not going to live and die without inquiring into who has happened, and not just take everyone else's word for it, but look for myself. But the obvious question, when you worked out that you're like an onion with layers, is what or who is at the center of the layers. And in the early 40s, he recognized that as near as science could get, you were almost nothing. But so it made sense you are a kind of no thing at center, like all the great mystics say you are, in fact. But he couldn't verify it. It was an assumption. And then one day he found in a book a self-portrait by Ernst Mach, who was a physicist. And Ernst Mach had drawn a picture of himself from his own point of view, which is headless. He just looked down and drawn his body, and you can't see your head. He drew his nose, huge nose, stretching from the ceiling to the floor. Mm-hmm. So if your listener can close one eye and look at your nose, you'll see. That's roughly what Ernst Mach drew. And if you look down at your body, you'll see you don't see your head. And when Douglas saw this, he looked at his own body, like I hope the listener is actually doing, and he noticed, I don't see my head. That's what I am from my point of view. And this really confirmed what science was telling him, that as science comes all the way up to you, you almost disappear. And then Douglas looked at zero, what he was from his own point of view, and he found he was zero. And from then on, this was not a big wow in a way. It was just a cool observation. But he'd been working on this question for 10 years. And he knew that he'd found what he was looking for. And after that, he spent some years writing another book, returned to England after the war. And the book, The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth, was published in 1952, which C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Narnia books, he said, this is a work of the highest genius. And it is a fantastic book. And after that, he went back into architecture. Then in 1961, he wrote On Having No Head, which is his well-known popular book. And in the late 60s, he developed his experiments, late 60s and early 70s. And the experiments are called experiments because his approach was scientific, really. And he said, well, who am I? What am I? This is important to ask this question. Well, partly it's just curiosity. But if you are making a mistake about what you are, that's liable to, sort of mess your life up. If you want to hammer a nail in, but you get a saw, you're not going to do any. You're going to do yourself some harm. So you really need the right tool for the job, and you need to be aware of who you really are, what your identity is, in order to live a good life. Not to be making a mistake. So that's a reason for looking, and of course, all the great mystics say that you're not, that you are something, there's a treasure inside. So Douglas's hypothesis, which is a scientific term, is that you're not at zero distance what you look like at 10 feet, say. You're not what you look like. And here are a whole load of experiments for you to test this. And all the experiments are, observation, really, like any experiment is. So if you now, someone says, well, what are you? Well, you look for yourself. You can't see your face. You can't see your head. And from your own point of view, this is the first person point of view, you're very different from what you look like in the mirror and to others. So Douglas, that's quite a long introduction to that, but that is what Douglas discovered, his true nature, which is what it's like to be first person, which is very, very different from what you look like in the mirror, which is what you look like at a few feet, or what you look like to others. And this is awakening to your true nature. All right, that was a long talk, wasn't it?
Thank you, Richard. I think before we go into talking about headlessness, it would be nice if you took myself and the listener through one of these experiments.
All right. Well, this is looking to see what it's like to be you. And we'll start visually. And then if we've got a few minutes here, I expect we can do eyes closed. But the listener really has to do these. It's no good just listening to me talking about it. And you've got to sort of do it and be prepared to do something that people would think is normally quite silly. But in order to take a fresh look at yourself, you've got to put aside what society is saying. And how do you do that? Well, what I'm going to ask the simplest one is just notice you can't see your face. But what are you at center? What are you at zero? Well, that's the question. What am I really? Who am I? In my own experience now. So I can't rely on what Richard says or what Isaac said or anyone. I have to look for myself. And in order to do that, I'm going to ask you first to look at things and then look at yourself. And in order to help you direct your attention, this is the bit that I would like you to do, is I want you to point at something in front of you. And the reason for pointing is you're directing your attention. Attention. That's what it is. And notice what you're pointing at. I hope you're doing it. You're looking down along your finger at something. What you're pointing at is a thing. Got color and shape and so on. Now point at, say, your hand. And you can see color and shape there. That's looking out at things. At this range, it's a hand. Now I want you to turn your finger round and point back at where others see your face. So this is the bit that Don't be embarrassed, just do it. It's worth it. Point back at where others see your face and notice what you see, because no one else is your side of your finger, so only you are there. Only you can see. Well, what I see is no face, no shape, no movement, no color. Just, it's a non-verbal experience, but I would say it's like space, transparency, openness. See? Now, you're directing your attention to the place you're looking out of. And it's different from anywhere else. There's no thing here. Now, if you use your other hand, it's a bit complicated to do it on audio, but use your other hand at the same time to point out. You've got the first finger pointing back at your no face and the second finger pointing out at things. That's two-way attention, two-way pointing. So this space that you're looking out of in the outward direction is full of everything. So there's one or two things probably to say about this experience. First of all, it's not a feeling. People say, well, I don't feel anything. Exactly. This is a kind of non-experience. It's not a wow, it's not anything. And then people might say, well, it doesn't mean anything to me. Well, that is fine too. You see, just be patient. If you discovered a new metal, you would say, well, I have no idea what I can do with that, so, drop it. No, you've got to be patient and explore what you can do with the metal. Well, it's the same with this weird non-experience. The thing is that I would say that it's true. When I look here where I am, there's no thing here, awareness. Not a feeling, not a thought, just open space. See? But when I look out, it's full of the whole world, and everything is in it. So anyway, we can explore more, I suppose, the usefulness and meaning of it. But the main thing I want to just clarify right now, before we go on with other experiments, is it doesn't have to mean anything to you. It doesn't have to feel anything. Is it true that when, put aside what you know about yourself, your face, your head, your everything, and just look. So that's a starter, Isaac. I can go on. Shall I just go on a bit more with more experiments?
Absolutely, I would love that.
Okay, all right. Well, I hope your listener will get a feel for the fact that this is an adventure. And this is as if you landed on a new planet and you're looking around for the first time. And so really, if you're on a new planet, you haven't been there before. So you've no preconceptions, hopefully. And you would notice things that you wouldn't notice if you had preconceptions. So I want you to be aware, first of all, of what you're experiencing visually, and then we'll go into sound and sensation and things. So I've sort of suggested the two-way pointing, the view in and the view out. The view in is to no face, no color, no shape. The view out is to things, colors and shapes and movement. Now, the view out is your field of view. And I mean that literally, just what you're seeing. But I want you to notice some things about this. This is as if you've landed on a new planet. If you look at any two objects within the field of view, you can compare them for size. So one is bigger or smaller, or I suppose they could be the same size. But it's relative. And one thing can be smaller than something else, but bigger than something else, because you can compare it. Now I'd like the listener and you, Isaac, and myself, to look at the whole field of view. So you just got to just wide-eyed view, just the whole field of view. How big is it? Well, you see, there isn't a second one on the right to compare it with. You only experience one view. You hear about mine, you hear about other people's, but you only experience one. It's single. So I can't say how big it is. This is, being on a new planet. Oh, there's only one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, terribly simple. But you can't say, how wide is the field of view? Well, it's as wide as east is from west, I suppose. I can't say. Now, the next thing to notice is that if you look at any object within the view, it's got a boundary and there's something all the way around it. It's inside an environment. Now I want you to look at the whole view, and you'll notice how it's most in focus in the middle, and then it gets vaguer and vaguer until it fades out. Now, is there anything beyond that faded edge, or whatever you want to call it? Is the whole view inside something bigger? Well, no. It's not inside anything. Not going by memory. You're on a new planet. You're looking to see what it's like. No one can tell you. You've got to look for yourself. Well, I say it's floating in nothing, or it's in awareness. If I point in at this space, I call this awareness or consciousness. You can call it what you like. But that consciousness, when you point in, doesn't have a name or a location or a size, and it has this whole view in it. It's not separate from the view. So you could say, I'm just using words here to try and describe the experience, that the whole view is just floating in consciousness. Not in my consciousness, just consciousness. All right, so you can't say how big it is, and it's not inside anything. The third thing you could ask is, how far away is it? If you look at an object within the view, you can measure how far it is from something else, because there's a distance between two things. But when you look at the whole view, how far away is it from you? Well, there's nowhere to measure from. You're looking out of open space. All right, so now I want the listener, and you, Isaac, and I'll do it too, close your eyes. Now, my experience is the world has just disappeared. It's just darkness. Now open your eyes, the world reappears in this space, in consciousness. Now that, you see, is something that you're probably very familiar with as a child. Close your eyes, make the world disappear, open your eyes, make it reappear. But that is your first-person experience. You understand that for others, you're just closing your eyes and nothing happens to the world. But the first person, which is what we're exploring, and hopefully we're not coming to it with preconceptions and saying, oh, it can't be like that. The thing about exploring what it's like to be first person is it's very, very different from your appearance, from what you've been told you are. And when you discover how different it is, it's no good dismissing it because it's not what you believe. That's not good. That's just going by what you've been told. All right, so eyes closed, and look at the darkness, so to speak. How big is it? Well, the same as the field of view. There isn't a second. So I can't say how big it is. We're told it's tiny, that it's in our head. But first person, no head, you see, just darkness in consciousness. And is it inside anything? Well, we're told it's somewhere in our brain. Well, all right. I don't find a brain. I don't find a container. It's in consciousness. And how far away is it? Well, nowhere to measure from, see. Now, I would say this is true of all the senses. So you go to sounds. See, you hear my voice coming and going, other sounds, see? And you can compare sounds. Some are louder than others, some are human, some are mechanical, all of that. But if I can put it like this, how big is the whole field of sound? How big is it? Well, all the sounds are within it. You can't compare it. It's single. Like the darkness, it's single. And is this field of sound inside anything? Well, I don't find it, in a kind of, box or in my head, or it's just happening in consciousness, in the silence. And the sounds come out of the silence and go back into the silence, see? And then I take my attention to my body sensations, and you can identify different sensations and label them, your foot, your elbow. But if the labeling it is a kind of map, very useful map. But imagine you'd just been born, you're an infant. You wouldn't have the map. You'd just have the sensations. Well, that's what I'm asking you to pay attention to, just the sensations. The map is there, but it's not the territory, as they say. Now, how big is the whole field of sensation? In other words, how big are you? Well, there isn't a second field of sensation. See, just single. And are these sensations inside anything? You have to just kind of be innocent and I don't find them inside anything. In other words, are you inside anything? How big are you now? How big is your consciousness? Well, I don't find a second one to compare myself with. In my own experience, there's only one consciousness. And this is, if you also just be aware of your thoughts and feelings. I mean, this is a very radically different way of appreciating what you are. I mean, you imagine the number 3. Well, where did that come from? Or imagine, just think of the face of a friend. How do you do that? Where does that come from? Did you see it come out of your brain? Or does it pop up out of no mind, out of emptiness, you see? I say it just comes magically out of nowhere. Think of the name of a planet, or just your thoughts are arriving out of nothing all the time and going back in. Same with feelings. And you can, just as you ask, how big is the darkness, or the sounds, or the sensations, how big is your mind? How big are all these, thoughts and feelings? Well, there isn't a second, see. So now if you open your eyes, I would say nothing changes, essentially. We'll talk about, talking, me and you and self and other and all of that. But my first person experience is there's only one consciousness and everything is in it, no matter whether I've got my eyes open or closed. And this really is, you see, a kind of science. It's you have science of objects, what things are at various ranges. You study a star, you study a stone, you study a cell. Now study yourself. See, now look at what you are. Pay attention to what you are. Are you what others see you to be? You see. So I know I'm Richard at a certain range, but at 0 I'm not. I'm space for the world. And these two go together. So it might be a good moment just to talk about the 4 stages, Isaac. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. The 4 stages of the development of life, as described in your book and Harding's book?
Yeah, just a map of our lives, of how we develop, because it helps us understand how we become aware of ourselves as individuals and the place of being aware of ourselves as being capacitive for the world. So there are 4 stages: baby, child, adult, seer. I hope your listener is writing all this down, by the way.
Me too.
No, I hope you're not. I hope the listener is actually just enjoying the ride and being open-minded and flexible and just, being open and willing to experiment, really. All right, so the baby, when you were a baby, you see, the listener, you were pre-verbal. You had no idea what you looked like. You're just looking out of your single eye. You look in the mirror, that's not you, it's just another face out there. You're space for the world without thinking of it like that. You're at large. That's the first stage, you see. The second stage is the child. Well, from the beginning of your life, your parents start reflecting back to you that you're a baby or an infant or a child. And they are reflecting back what you look like at several feet. Now, what you look like at zero is no thing full of the world, space of the world, but what you look like from a few feet away is a very special, unique person. But you don't know that until you start to get the feedback. And mum and dad put a mirror in front of you and say, look, that's what you are. Well, you can't see that where you are. You see it over there in the mirror. So what you learn to do, and this is just involves just a bit of focus really for the listener, is unless you've actually got a mirror, which would be good, but you look in the mirror and you're taught to sort of reach into the mirror in your imagination, grab that face, pull it out, flip it the other way around because it's facing the wrong way. So you'll imagine this. See, you're aiming to put this face on because your parents say that you can't see your face, but we can. And where you see no face, you've got a face, believe us. And that's the one in the mirror that is there. You're behind a face, you can't see it. So reach in, pull it out, flip it the other way around, make it bigger and put it on. Now you can't do that, but you imagine your face on your emptiness above your shoulders. And you imagine, you see, you've got all these sensations you call your face. But for a baby, that's not a face. They're just part of the view, all these sensations. But you learn to marry the image. You look at the mouth there, and you've got the sensation of the mouth here, which has no shape or color or location. And you marry the image so that you know where to put your food. You sort of imagine that image out there over here. And so growing up, you learn about what you look like and learn to imagine that map, your back, your elbow, your head, your whole body. You learn to become self-conscious and think of yourself as inside that body and behind that face, which you don't actually, you're not from your point of view. But in order to join in society, you have to become aware of that and take responsibility for that and say, well, this is me and these are my words and these are my actions and I'm separate from you face to face. So when you look at someone as a baby, you've no idea of your own face, you've got sensations, but you're just open for the other face. When you're a child, you're learning to imagine being face to face, confront the visible face there with the imagined face here. So by the time you're at the third stage of the adult, you're totally convinced that you've got a face here, that you confront others face to face. You look in the mirror, that's you. So that's the third stage. And you've really forgotten about and repressed awareness of your spacious first personhood. You've become a third person, an object. And this has just becomes, deeply conditioned into us, and we just assume that we're objects, we're people. So the thing is that that's the third stage, and potentially there's a fourth stage, which quite a lot of people don't know about, which is rediscovering your first personhood, what it's like to be you, as opposed to what it's like, what you are for others. You've got what you are others for going. You operate as if you're a person, automatically. Now I'm saying, as well as being aware of that, which is great, being self-conscious, aware of yourself as an individual, is recognizing that's what you are for others. What you are for yourself is this headless, open space full of everything. Now, this is true, I would say, but for testing. But if you start to become aware of this in your life, it is just so supportive. It reconnects you with the world and with people. For example, if you're with people now, you can notice it's face to no face, and your sensations don't get in the way of the other person. They're just part of the view. So I could say, when I'm looking at you, I have your face instead of my own. I'm space for you, you're space for me. I'm looking out of this single eye, everything is in me. Now that is just, to live this at the same time aware that you're just a person in the world, two sides to yourself. This is just a new way of living, really. Yeah. So the experiments, and there are lots on the website, and lots of, YouTube videos and books, and, a lot for free on the YouTube channel and on our website, headless.org. The experiments get you to test this out to see if it's true. That Richard isn't trying to kid you, or the point is, look for yourself. But if you're interested, if you realize that, first of all, the great mystics have said that there's a great treasure inside you, that you are the one, that God is inside you, or Buddha nature, that is you, and that if you don't become aware of this, you're missing out big time. And the purpose of life is to go through this journey of forgetting who you are and then reawakening to who you are. And the best bit comes when you start to reawaken to who you are. So if you get that and are interested in the truth, and not just going through your life, not inquiring and and just taking for granted and accepting what everyone tells you are, without looking for yourself, well, so be it. But that's not me. And when these experiments are ways in which you can just check out what you are. And for example, one of them is a turning one. You point back at your no face and you turn round, and you see you don't move. The world turns. From the outside, you're turning and the room is still. From the inside, you're still and the world is turning. Now that you can, walking down the street, I don't walk down the street. The street moves through me. Driving in my car, I don't drive from A to B. I'm still and B comes to me. This is relaxing, this is true, this is fun, this is interesting. And the big one, of course, is being face to no face. This is love. You see that you are built open for others and for the world. Yep. And my voice now, Isaac, is in your awareness, right? In your consciousness, you see. You're the silence in which my voice is happening, like the listener. All right. Are you still there?
Yes. I agree with you. I think headlessness can increase your empathy for others in a way that's not usually possible. Because by seeing what you are, you can see what others are.
Yes.
And you can understand them in a way you couldn't before by being the space for them to truly be. It's like you said in your book, the void is identical in all, and quite literally, nothing is between us.
Right.
I think that's a very good way to connect with other people.
Well, I mean, that it's the same nothing that we're talking about, isn't it, Isaac? It doesn't have Isaac's name on it, or Richard's name, or address. And, your nothing isn't in America and mine's in England. It's just not, you can't locate or divide it like that. So we understand how we're different. We don't know each other as people, all of that. But as who we really are, there's nothing between us, as you say. There's no distance. There's no difference. So you're unique, individual, different, separate, and here is this one consciousness that we more than share. We are wonderful, you see. Wonderful. Yeah.
Yes. And this space really is infinite. There's nothing to compare it to.
I know.
Where are the edges?
I know.
They are nowhere.
I know. You never get used to it.
Yes,
I was introduced to this 50 years ago. 50. And it is more and more surprising all the time. That just what you say, it's got no edges. How can you get used to that?
Yes, exactly. It's a novel experience every time you see it. The emptiness, I truly think the emptiness is important. If the mind was already full, let's say you were hearing a loud song all the time,
right.
There would be nothing with which to hear. There would be nothing the world could fit inside of.
Yes.
It's a container infinite in scope, ready to hold all that is, and all of this is within you.
Well, exactly, you see, exactly. I know. Yes.
Yes, it's very nice. I heard it put well during a meditation that your consciousness is not inside your head. Your head is inside your consciousness.
Well, yes, of course. And you see, the thing is that this experience is the experience of yourself. So you can't get it wrong. Uh, and it is a non-verbal experience. I'm aware of this space in which my head and everything is happening, as it were, but it's essentially a non-verbal experience. And so there is not a right way of thinking about it or responding to it. There is your way and my way and anyone's way. So this gets rid of the idea that there are some are better at it than others, or there's a hierarchy. You can't get better at nothing.
Yes.
And you can't get worse. And you can't
Right.
do it wrong.
Yes, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought you phrased it really well when you said it's not from here to there, but from there to here.
Okay.
You're
Well, you
not
see.
going anywhere else.
No, no. Well, there's an example, you see, of you connecting with a particular way of saying it, because someone else might not get that, and it doesn't matter. You see, it really doesn't matter. These are just different ways of describing this experience that we've all got. And you see, I'm afraid that in the meditation world, the idea of enlightenment is given, put up on a pedestal, and only a few people get it. And if you claim to get it, you're being boastful or something. You can't have it. And so people do, and I talk to them, often people going off on retreat hoping to get it, and all anxious that they won't. And the joke is you're looking out of it and you are it, and you can't get it wrong. And this does undermine this whole program and project and business of enlightenment. And enlightenment is really just being enlightened to what you are. And you can look right now. I mean, that's just point back at where others see your face. That's what I'm talking about. You say, well, I don't feel anything. No, exactly.
Yes.
If you felt something here, that would get in the way, and then you'd lose it.
Right, right. If an internal song was playing in your head, you
Yeah.
couldn't hear anything.
No, that's right. Yeah.
I
So,
agree too. The enlightenment business is kind of missing the point. If you're waiting for happiness and fulfillment, it's a protracted effort because everything you've ever wanted is within you and it's right on the surface.
well, there you are. You see, that's your way of putting it. You see, and the kind of confusing thing is that people think that what they're looking for is happiness. Well, I understand that, and we want to be happy and all of that. But in terms of who you really are, the experience of who you really are is not happiness. It's a bit of a shock to people. They think, well, why would I want that? You see, it's nothing, nothing. It's a non-experience. It's unique because everything else has got content. But this experience of who you are, the place you're looking out of, your single eye, the place you are pointing at, what is listening to this voice is no thing. And people think, oh, well, what is the point of that? It's got no feeling, no quality. It's not sort of happiness, no, but it is what you are. Now, if you can, I assure you, if you can nevertheless attend to it, even if you think, well, I can't see what this is going to do to me, but I can see it's true, then stay with that, and it will deliver everything you need. Maybe not what you want, but this is for testing, of course. This is for testing. But it seems to me that the thing that kind of that people think is, oh, I don't feel anything. No, that's right. But what is this? You see, it's not just nothing, like it's awareness. You're self-evidently aware, and you're full of everything. You're looking out of your single eye. Where's the dividing line between this nothingness and the tree there, or the grey sky here in London? Where there's no dividing line. Everything is within you, and everything. My voice is not for me coming out of my mouth. It's coming out of nowhere. This is magic. I mean, really, when you start to pay attention, you don't know how you do anything.
Yes.
I mean, how do you open and close your hand? You do it, but how do you do it? I don't know. You tidy up the kitchen. Do you know in what order you're going to do it? It unfolds. Now this is how it always has been, but you're appreciating that this is flowing from this mysterious awareness that you are, this mysterious no thing, and it's a life of spontaneity and creativity and interest and fun. And well, here's another thing, you see, because people think that once you find out who you really are, or experience who you really are and go on experiencing, then you won't have problems or stress. Well, look at your hand, you see, and notice your arm, and your arm comes back to your shoulder and then disappears into the void here, into the first person. Now you can see your arm coming out of the emptiness here, and you've got sensations. Now make your hand into a fist, you see. So your hand is tense now. Now does the space you're looking out of get tense?
No.
No. So just as it's face there to no face here, it's tension there, stress to no stress. So relax your hand. So does the freedom from stress is here, but it doesn't mean to say you don't experience stress there. Life is full of stress and problems and difficulties and things not going according to plan. But you're looking out of this place that is free of stress and problems. Now, does that make a difference to be aware of this as you're going through life? It does. You've got to test this. But, it's not just a kind of dead space. It's awareness. It's the source, I would say. So it's immensely creative and, yes, worth having in the picture.
I agree. It's like a mirror. It's like a mirror that doesn't get dirty when it reflects dirty things.
Right. Very good.
You don't blame the mirror for being dirty when it reflects something that isn't, like dirt or something like that. And so if you view negative emotions the same way, you can see that you're this space that the negativity is being entertained in. And you can use that to break the spell of that energy when you remember to see.
Yes, you see, perfect. And this isn't a program to follow. This is an adventure and research and discovery. And there you are, you see. You're saying, well, test this out in a situation and find out whether or not it helps you break that pattern or something. Well, that's for testing, you see. The other thing is, like, the mirror is a very powerful thing. And growing up, we learn to look in it and identify with the face there, which as I've said earlier, you sort of pluck the image in your imagination from the mirror and put it on, and then go around as if you're behind that thing. Now, the image in the mirror that you pluck in your imagination and put on is imperfect. Unless you're different from the rest of us, of course. But anyway, mine is imperfect. And when I look in the mirror, usually I'm disappointed. And the face there is getting older. And so if I pluck that face and pretend to put it on, I'm getting older and I'm imperfect, and it's depressing, you see. Now, actually, when you look, this is where the experiment comes in and the testing. When you look in the mirror, notice the face is there. You don't have one on the near side of the mirror. You're open space. You're like the mirror you're talking about. that doesn't get affected by the face there. In fact, there in the face is your human appearance, and this side, the place you're looking out of where you are, is this divine clarity, openness, So this is a remedy for the kind of depression that the mirror can give to people. That when you look in it and you're not as you want to be, the truth is your appearance is there, and here is your reality, which is this clear mirror that is always well and perfect in a way. Now that doesn't then improve your face, but it places it, and like placing the stress. And if you actually practice this and live it, so that as you get more and more into the habit, when you look in the mirror, of seeing that you're not like that here. You are there, and that's a special face, that's your face, but here you're not. That frees you, and I think your face probably benefits anyway, your appearance, because you're not kind of fussing over it as you might have been doing. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a great way of putting it. I like changing the frame of how people look at life to see it in a more meaningful way. Douglas Harding said it very well when he said, "Why should existence itself exist? What reality is isn't as important as that reality is. The fact that this miracle has been achieved should give us great comfort, as after this, what is impossible?"
Well, there you go. You see, that is someone stepping back and recognizing that they are. And this is something that most of us don't do in our busy lives. We get on with what we're doing and who we are. And we don't stop and say, wow, I am. Or, who am I? What I am. Well, when you do that and recognize that, here, as Douglas says, here's a way of thinking about it, that I need not have been, but I am. So how wonderful is that? I mean, everything depends on that. So this basic appreciation that you are. And then, of course, when you look to see what you are, you're not just the one in the mirror. You are this one consciousness that somehow is. Now, you are that consciousness. Now, you don't know what you are. So the consciousness doesn't know what it is. You don't know where you came from as this consciousness. You don't know how you managed to happen, but you are. That's the basic reality. What you're looking at might be a dream, but the fact that you're looking is not a dream. The fact that you are conscious is just self-evident. Now, this is, when you get a taste for it, you say, wow, that is extraordinary. This is the one saying, I am. I don't know how I came to be. The whole universe is sort of flowing out of me. I don't know how I do that, and it's functioning. How amazing I am. Not Richard. How amazing is the one within me. Now if I can't trust that, who can I trust? I mean, it's just. Yes. Of course, some people, you point this out and they say, "Oh, that's great. What's on TV tonight?"
Right.
But that I think there's a place for that, you see, and that's just amazing, really, to me. But there's a place for it. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I think this is a nice thought experiment that helps. Imagine if there was no life in the universe, just a bunch of rocks hitting each other for infinity. There would be no seeing. There would be no consciousness to appreciate all that is. And it would be meaningless. But the fact that there is this emptiness that can hold the world, it's a true miracle. It's the only thing that could mean anything.
Yeah, but I mean, when you just can't do that. It's self kind of contradictory, because if you're imagining just rocks, you're imagining. So there's the consciousness, right?
Yes, that's funny. Yes, absolutely. I saw a quote in your book seeing who you really are, it said, I am not at home in the universe. The universe is at home in me.
All right. Well, you see, check it out. One way, a very simple way of checking this out is that if you're inside, if you're in a room, notice you can't see all four walls, all of them. Usually you can only see three, and the fourth one is missing because you're looking, it's just as your head is missing, the fourth wall is missing, and instead of that wall is this wide open space. So if something is in a room, it's surrounded by four walls and a ceiling and a floor, but you're not surrounded. The wall on the left fades out into the nothing, and the wall on the right fades out, and the ceiling fades out into the single eye there, and so on. So, I'm not in the room. The room is in me. I'm not in the world is in me. Now, I have a friend who used to be in prison, and he wrote a very good book called The Light That I Am. You can get it on Amazon. His name is Ambershell. And he came across Seeing Who You Are when he was in prison, and he got it. And in that book, he's got basically he realized that although, for others he was in prison, for him he wasn't. Prison was in him.
Oh.
Right. Now he couldn't leave, but inwardly he was not. Inwardly he was free, just as we all are, you see. Now, did that make a difference? Well, he wrote this book, The Light That I Am, which I highly recommend. It's a collection of essays, and one of them is called 2 Days. And in this essay, he describes a day in prison. And the first half is the first day, but it's the day, is the day experienced not aware of who you are, thinking you're a thing. And you get up and there's loud noises and you're told what to do, and then someone pushes you around and it's noise all the time, and you're a thing being bumped around and told what to do, and you don't have a minute to yourself. And right, that's the first day. First part of the essay. The second part of the essay is exactly the same day described. Well, I open my eyes, the cell appears in me. The sounds appear in me, but do not disturb the emptiness. The people, in the chow hall or whatever you call it, I have their faces instead of my own. I'm not in prison. I'm walking down the corridor, but I'm not. The corridor is walking through me. I'm still. Now that is a different day.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, you could say it's your life. One life is to live as if you are your appearance only, and you're being bumped around and face to face and confronting everything, and people are not doing what you want, you see, and loud noises and all. Or your life could be, I am space for the world. Everyone's face is my own. I don't move through the world. The world moves through me. I'm not inside this room. This room is in me. Does it mean that, did it mean for him that he was suddenly free, got out of prison? No. Prison was in him, though. So life is full of problems, but see that they're in you. You're not caught up. You're really not. But this is, you don't just sort of see it and then it's done. You've got to practice and explore it and draw on it. And it is challenging. No one's saying it's easy. But this is a different kind of life. Yeah.
Yes, it's like it's put in on having no head. What a way to travel, to find the thing that has been with us the entire time.
Yes.
It's very funny how it can be such a long search for something that's always been right on the surface.
Well,
but you have to lose it to be able to appreciate it.
That's right. Well, that's the story in the Bible of the prodigal son who leaves home and goes to Egypt or the far country and forgets home. And then finally, is in a bad way and returns home. And the father at home throws a party, and the elder brother doesn't get the party because he never left. So you only really appreciate home when you've been away from it. Just as Yes, you only appreciate your own country if you've traveled and you come back and you see it with fresh eyes because you've got something to compare it with. Well, it's the same with who you really are. If you stayed in the sort of original state of the baby, you wouldn't know anything else, and it wouldn't have the same meaning for you now that you've forgotten it, and then you return to it. And I think that we forget it every day and return to it every day. This is the way that it works, but it means that we rediscover what it means again and again in new ways. Yeah.
Yes, I really think it's such a useful practice. I've been thinking about headlessness for about 2 months, not very long, but I thought of an experiment idea I wanted to share with you to kind of see what you thought.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you know those pictures that come out of like a Polaroid camera? They just like come right out. They're little squares.
Yes.
So take a picture like that and put it directly in front of you. A printed picture. And
Picture of what?
let's say a mountain.
Okay.
But it could really be anything. And look at this picture and notice how it has depth. You can see the depth of the picture, but it's still a single frame.
Okay.
The distance is only an illusion of the mind, with the entire surface being one. Now move the picture, but view your visual field in the same sense. There is no distance. It
Yes.
is all appearing within this space of consciousness. It's all one view. Regardless of if you are looking at something big or small, this space contains it, unchanging and yet still always changing.
Yes. Well, no, I like that very much. Yes. Yes. The view, the whole view is like a picture. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, you
No
move the
distance.
picture and you still see it in the
Yes.
same way.
Yes. Well, there you go. Lovely. Yeah. Very good.
Awesome. It reminds me of a quote by Eckhart. The outward man is a swinging door. The inner man is the still hinge.
Yes. There you go. Yeah. I think that's a good image. Yeah.
Yes, I'm glad you like it. So I think that that gives us a good background on what headlessness is and how you can see the meaning of life through it. I'd like to talk to you about what the self is. On the next episode of The Lucid Truth, Richard Lange and I will discuss the nature of the true self, as well as the existence of free will. Stay tuned next week to hear The Free Self, featuring the man with no head.